Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk, the most fact-driven, unbiased, true crime channel. First on the docket today, November 2nd, 2021. Well, the hits just keep on coming for Alex Murdaugh. A little more information on the Alec Baldwin homicide. Teacher of the year, wait till you hear this. Bad boys going to jail in Florida. The Rittenhouse trial begins. A con man, well, you got to listen to this. And then finally, our dumb criminal short. Let's talk about it. Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Here we have a channel where a practicing criminal defense attorney explains not only the facts, the procedure, and the law regarding cold cases and current true crime cases. All right. Now, if you haven't done so, please hit the subscribe button, hit that little bell so you receive notifications of when we go live or put up new content. And as always, leave us a comment below. If you can't watch us, you can always listen to us by downloading us on your favorite app, and you can have us anywhere you want, 24/7, 365. All right, as always, we need to support the people that support Crime Talk. Please go to crimetalkprep.com, claim your 3-month emergency food kit. In today's world of supply chain shortages, that's right, shortages that we thought would never happen here, it's a thing. We've all seen it. We've all read about it. We've all been to the store. You know, it's a real deal. It just shows you how quickly one's life can change. So you need to be prepared. Go to crimetalkprep.com, get that 3 months of an emergency food kit and get $100 off. Go to crimetalkprep.com. All right. It is November 2nd, 2021. We're on the road yet again, still the same place, Tampa, as we told you in yesterday's show. We are down here, well, supporting the lovely Miss Kristen for sure. But we also wanted to see, why was there so many dumb criminals that seem to come from Florida? I don't know, maybe something in the water. Haven't found the reason just yet, because frankly, everybody seems to be so nice. But we have a couple of stories coming from Florida, so I just don't know what it is. All right, as I said, today is Tuesday, November 2nd. Well, the hits just keep on coming for Alec Murdaugh. All right, first, the Murdaugh murder saga, which is revolved around obviously the disgraced attorney and his powerful South Carolina family and the influential law firm that it founded. And it's obviously captivated a lot of people across the country. Unfortunately, the feds may have made some crucial errors in this case, including their typical our way or the highway approach when it comes to working with state and local law enforcement. The Office of the Acting United States Attorney, Rittenhouse, has not handled its entry into this case well. Aside from a full-scale turf war underway between the regional office of the U.S. Attorney's Office over who is handling the various Murdaugh-related matters, there are some serious integrity issues at play. Specifically, DeHart's raid into this case appears to have originated with backdoor negotiation by attorneys for Alex Murdaugh. Now, the goal of these ongoing negotiations was to strike a preemptive deal with the federal government that could conceivably mitigate some of the state charges Murdaugh is facing or could face, as well as charges that he's likely to face, obviously, in the future. So in other words, Murdaugh's attorneys want to get his client into a minimum security federal correctional facility as soon as possible in the hopes of keeping him out of the far less friendly confines of the South Carolina Department of Corrections. Well, the attorneys don't have that kind of influence, or do they? He was a key figure in one of the President Biden's first in the South Democratic presidential primary in 2020. And his wife recently received an ambassadorship to Slovenia from Biden as a token of the president's appreciation. And many believe it is Harpeltunian's influence, which has officials at the United States Department of Justice pushing DeHart to get involved in the case. Now, DeHart was warned by the South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson, that his involvement could potentially jeopardize one of the ongoing state investigations, including the double homicide of Alex Murdaugh's wife and youngest son, which is still being investigated by South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, which is known as SLED. Well, last week, there's reports of potential conflicts of interest involving Kara Henderson, a special U.S. attorney who handles drug cases for the feds in partnership with the South Carolina 14th Solicitor's Office. Her father, Danny Henderson, is a workers' compensation lawyer at the firm who just happened to be involved with Murdaugh. They've been involved in that office since 1980. Henderson's direct boss is the 14th Circuit Solicitor Duffy Stone, and Stone has already excused himself from this case due to his close proximity to the Murdaugh family. Now, in fact, until recently, Alec Murdaugh was still carrying a badge as one of Stone's deputies' solicitors. So it begs the question, how can the office investigate the firm involvement when the partner's daughter works there? Several Low Country attorneys say that this case needed to be handled out of Columbia or Greenville, South Carolina. Now, the feds aren't happy about the investigation, could be compromised by Charleston handling this particular case. Another conflict of interest in the Murdaugh murder saga involves the former attorney of Alex Murdaugh, who's now employed at DeHart's office in Charleston. Until March of this year, Assistant United States Attorney Amy Bauer worked for the law offices of Hainsworth, Sinkler, Boyd, which has been representing Murdaugh, the wrongful death suit filed by the family of Mallory Beach. Now, Bauer was one of Murdaugh's attorneys on the case. What does this really mean? Okay, I can tell you. The federal system, although you're going to serve a little bit longer of a sentence of the actual confinement of any sentence ordered, it's a little friendlier conditions. Should we say that? A little nicer conditions. I have personally done this myself when I've had clients charged, for example, with bank robbery, and they're charged with aggravated robbery in state court. And if you could go to the feds and say, hey, this is an FDI insured bank, why are we prosecuting it in the state? The feds can pick it up. Why? Because the federal sentencing guidelines are going to be much more lenient than the state sentencing schemes in most situations. And particularly in white collar crime type of cases, this is a big deal. And if you think about it, why? Well, the federal sentencing sentences are written by people in Congress. What crimes are they most likely to get in charge with? Well, white collar crime. Their friends are going to get white collar crime. So the sentences are usually much more lenient. Okay. That's why Murdaugh's attorneys are trying to get to the feds. It's a good tactic, but it looks like it's going to run into a little more resistance. Well, the hits still kept on coming because early as this morning, Judge Daniel Hall ordered an asset freezing injunction and appointed receivers to manage and recover funds that could pay alleged victims currently suing Alex Murdaugh. The ruling comes just 2 weeks after another South Carolina judge denied Murdaugh's bond for charges related to the Gloria Satterfield case, the housekeeper matter. Now, Judge Hall made this decision 4 days after attorney Mark Tingsley presented his argument for temporary injunction over Alex Murdaugh's assets and to appoint two outside parties, attorney John T. Lay Jr. and former U.S. Attorney Peter M. McCoy Jr., to have control over Alex and Buster's Murdaugh's assets, also known as the receivership in the court. Now, last Friday, Tinsley argued that the receivership is necessary for the many victims in this case to get justice. Tinsley said that it's possible that there are more victims like Satterfield's family who were allegedly duped by Alex Murdaugh and are waiting to sue them. Now, Tinsley, who represented Mallory Beach's family in the wrongful death lawsuit against the Murdaughs, said that their clients are obviously very pleased with the ruling. Who wouldn't be? Because now you have assets that you can actually collect from. Okay. One of the hardest things in a personal injury suit, unless there's insurance on the other side, is does the person have anything to actually take? So now you have a personal injury lawsuit. You got the dad in custody. The son is dead. And the other son, Buster Murdaugh, who gave the license to Paul Murdaugh to use, is all on the hook. And guess what? Now they can't go around settling these debts and giving preferential treatment to family members. So the family for Miss Beach should be very pleased. All right, next, a quick update on the Alec Baldwin homicide. Okay, and it is a homicide. What makes something a homicide? Where somebody dies at the result of another person. Accidents, well, that's usually like when a tree branch falls off and hits the person walking under the head. That's an accident. Nobody could have foreseen that. But this was foreseeable, which makes it possibly criminal, and we'll see what is going to take place. And apparently the fatal shooting was not the first accident on the set of Alec Baldwin's film. As previously reported, Helena Hutchins died on October 21 after Baldwin shot a live round from a weapon that he believed or was told that it was cold. Now, the film's director, Joel Souza, was also shot, the same projectile that killed Hutchins, but has since been released from the hospital. Now, an investigative report revealed that the film's crew was unhappy with the conditions of the production. Apparently, budgetary constraints left camera crews who lived within 60 miles of the set without local accommodations, even though the crew was working extremely long days and contributed to what some crew members said was a rushed atmosphere on the set. Apparently, a lot of people said it always felt like the budget was more important than the crew members, and people were unhappy. Now, according to this report, there were 3 other accidental discharges on the set before Hutchins was killed, though the report does not specify who is believed to be responsible for those instances. In one instance, Baldwin's stunt double accidentally fired a blank after being told a prop weapon was cold, like Baldwin's was, but it's not clear if anyone was injured. It was told that the woman in the props department accidentally shot herself in the foot, also with a blank. The report did not give any details about a third incident. Now, we're going to have to wait and see. A lot of people, well, don't like Alec Baldwin, think he should be charged. Some people say you should treat every weapon as loaded, even if it is supposed to be a prop gun. But guess what? It was a real gun. Clearly, there was negligence here. The question is the district attorney going to bring charges in this particular case? I think they're taking their time, and they're probably seeing if, since they've recovered the casing, if they can determine if anyone's fingerprints are on that casing to see if they're responsible for that. And obviously DNA would be included in that as well. All right. We joke about teachers of the year. Well, got another one here. Literally, a Florida high school teacher who had recently been named Teacher of the Year by her school district is now accused of child abuse against a student. Now, Caroline Lee, 60, a teacher at the Darnell Cookman School of the Medical Arts in Jacksonville, was arrested Friday on accusations that she hit a student in the face in her classroom. Now, police say the incident occurred after an Instagram post earlier that week by the Duval County Public School congratulated Lee for winning its Teacher of the Year award. The post had a comment that said, quote, questioned if Lee was the same teacher that used the N-word in the class last year, end quote. That's all according to the Duval School Board police report. The post also showed a response from Lee where she explained the use of the word was in the context of the book Of Mice and Men. Well, video footage showed Lee leaving her class that morning to go to the student's class. A minute later, Lee is seen walking ahead of the student at an aggressive pace back to her classroom, according to the report. A few minutes later, the student is seen leaving the classroom holding her facial area around the front of her face. Now, the student later told police that while the two were inside Lee's classroom, Lee accused the student of threatening her. When the student said she hadn't, Lee reached across the table and struck her on her face with the heel of her palm. That's right there. Now, the student stated she grabbed her nose because it started bleeding after she was struck. And the student said Lee then began repeatedly calling her, well, an effing biatch, as she landed several more strikes along the top of the head. The student stated she began trying to hold both of Lee's arms to keep from being struck, and Lee kicked her on her lower leg. Now, according to the report, Lee then opened the rear door of the classroom and demanded that she get out, the student get out. The student told the police she immediately went to the guidance office. Lee told the police that she interpreted the Instagram comment as a threat to kill her and felt she needed to speak to the students. Now, according to the police reports, she said that she was not afraid of the student and didn't think it was necessary to report the threat. Kind of goes against the whole threat thing, though, doesn't it? Well, Lee denied that she harmed the student and could not explain the bloody nose that the student sustained. Now, Lee obtained an attorney, a guy by the name of David Robbins, and he says that Lee has not been charged yet. And he says that Miss Lee did not strike the child inside the ongoing investigation, saying that everyone is hopeful and confident that there will be no charges against Caroline Lee. I mean, after all, she's Teacher of the Year. All right. Some bad boys in Florida. Next week, Roderick Flowers and Keith Edwards will be headed to federal prison for 1 year and 3 months. When they get out, both have to serve 2 years of house arrest and then face supervised release for another 5 years. Now, both are also ordered by the U.S. District Judge Paul Hux to serve up to 1,000 hours of community service. So who are Roderick Flowers and Keith Edwards? Well, they are young former police officers who patrolled the county's streets in their police cruisers by day and escorts in a cocaine trafficking operation by night. It would only take a single sting operation produced by undercover drug agents to bring down the buddy cops, who had a thing for the hit police action movie franchise Bad Boys. Both Flowers, 31, and Edwards, 29, avoided potential lengthier sentences of 3 to 5 years because while they abused the public trust, they accepted responsibility after they got caught. Also, the load of cocaine, which was fake but made to look real, and the sting operation was a relatively small amount, between half a kilo and 2 kilos. Each police officer is only paid $5,000 for providing protection for the shipment. Now, the single illicit transaction was entirely orchestrated by the Drug Enforcement Administration and their agents and a confidential source. And according to the criminal complaint affidavit, the case was made with the help of a confidential source posing as a Mexican cartel member who arranged international money laundering deals with Hernandez and brought in the 2 cops to help transport a shipment to White Girls, code word for packages of cocaine from Homestead to Aventura. Now, according to court records, DEA agents and their main confidential source zeroed in on Manuel Carlos Hernandez, who ran Hernandez's investments in Davie. During the first meeting last year, the source presented himself as a cocaine broker and money launderer affiliated with the Sinaloa cartel of Mexico. Hernandez boasted of numerous clients he had laundered money for in his bank account and plans to open a barbershop and a car wash to wash dirty money, according to the complaint. He also told the confidential source that he had connections in law enforcement who could help. Now, over the summer of 2020, in meetings that were secretly audio and video recorded, the DA confidential source arranged a series of laundering deals involving drug money. That August, the DEA's confidential source asked Hernandez if one of his law enforcement sources could run a license plate for someone that supposedly owed him money. The DEA agents later learned that the cop who ran the tag through a law enforcement database was Flowers. Hernandez later told the confidential source that Flowers and an unnamed cop cousin were on his payroll and had acted as security for money laundering activities. The DEA source met Flowers and Hernandez on September 9th. The source asked if he was indeed a cop. Yeah, I don't look like one, right? According to Flowers. The source eventually offered to hire Flowers to protect a shipment of cocaine that was to be transported from Homestead Motel to a location in Aventura. Flowers eagerly explained his security prowess, even explaining that he and Edwards both had SWAT training. Nothing like boosting those credentials. The source paid Flowers $5,000 up front, according to the DEA. Edwards later met the source in person, also boasting of his security training and sharpened military skills. He also referred to himself as a cop's cop. The operation deal took place without a hitch on September 16th of 2020, with Flowers and Edwards accompanying the transport in separate cars from a hotel in Homestead to the one in Aventura. The confidential source, along with an undercover agent, transported the sham load of cocaine in one car while Flowers drove in front of them and Edwards behind them. The defense attorneys who represents Edwards said that while this crime was created by the feds in an undercover operation, there was some pretty damning audio tape that made it clear that they were doing something with drugs. So in April, Flowers and Edwards pled guilty to conspiracy to distribute cocaine in a plea agreement with prosecutors, and they were later sentenced in August. Flowers and Edwards had both been members of the Miami-Dade's Priority Response Team, a unit created after the 2018 Parkland school massacre to respond to major incidents. And they'll never be police officers again because they will be convicted felons, and you can't have a firearm if you're a convicted felon. And obviously these two on social media previously both preened with their badges donned with thick jewelry and pictures of them smoking cigars. They also had a liking to bad boys. On Instagram, Flowers even used the name Mike Lowry, the character played by actor Will Smith. At Halloween, Edwards posted a photo of the two dressed like fictional detectives with the caption, "We ride together, we die together, bad boys for life." Well, I guess if you're going to have to go to prison as a cop, you might as well go as a dirty cop. And frankly, I'm a little disappointed that they didn't get more time. They were a public official. They were a cop. They should be held to a higher standard and not get a reduced sentence simply because to the crime that they were committing, conspiracy to distribute drugs. Well, they were cops. They knew better. Well, the Kyle Rittenhouse case begins today. All right. He's accused, obviously, murdering two people and injuring a third back in August of 2020 amid unrest in Kenosha, Wisconsin, after the police shooting of Jacob Blake. His trial began Monday. Opening arguments were due today, which is expected to last about 2 weeks, the trial is. Now, the selected 12 jurors and 8 alternates consist of 9 men and 11 women, including 1 person of color. The government will try to convince 12 jurors that Rittenhouse is a teenage vigilante who illegally traveled with a military-style semi-automatic rifle and murdered 3 people, while his defense team is preparing to argue that their client only fired out of self-defense. But to prove that he sincerely feared for his life, Rittenhouse is actually probably going to have to testify in his own defense. The problem with that is you don't know how a teenager is going to react on the stand. And I can tell you from a criminal defense perspective, you always want to try to prepare your case to see if you can get the instruction that you need for self-defense. Because remember, you have to present some evidence, a mere scintilla of evidence of self-defense in this particular case to get the instruction. But it's sometimes risky if your client doesn't testify because you don't know if the judge is going to give the instruction. And if you don't get the instruction and that's your self-defense, guess what? You have nothing to argue in closing argument. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can do that, since the judge had previously shut down the defense and other expert witnesses, saying that Mr. Rittenhouse acted accordingly and was justified in shooting. Well, can't testify to that. That's the ultimate issue for the trier of fact, and that would be invading the province of the jury. It's going to be the jury to decide whether the young Mr. Rittenhouse was reasonable or unreasonable. I don't see this case, we'll have to wait and see, but what I know about it thus far, I think the jury's going to come back with something less than the highest murder charges, but something to hold him accountable in the future. We will see how this trial goes. Obviously, it's super political, but as the judge admonished the jury today, is that, listen, ignore what you've read, ignore what you've heard about other commentators about this case, because most of them have no idea what they're talking about. Remember, the jurors are the trier of fact in this particular case. Those are the only 12 people that matter. And their decision, well, it's more than likely going to be the correct decision. So we're all just going to have to wait and see. And we cannot obviously predict exactly what is going to take place. But my hunch is Rittenhouse is convicted of something, not a complete acquittal, but not a complete victory for the prosecutor as well. All right. We've heard of con men. It just never ceases to amaze me that people pay con men, but it happens. Well, a 31-year-old self-proclaimed fortune teller, an unnamed female, sought out the services of Carlos, real name Andres Pena Mensenses, to get her fortune read over the summer. He reportedly informed the woman that she had parasites, so she paid him several $100s to have him help her get rid of the parasites. Now, the Riverside police said that Carlos spoke with the woman again and told her she and her family, including her children, were cursed, and they needed more money to rid her of the curse. The woman ultimately wound up paying $50,000. On October 26th, detectives from the Economic Crime Unit and Property Crimes Units obtained a search warrant for Carlos's home and business, and during the search, the detectives reportedly found a large amount of cash, a voodoo doll, tarot cards, an altar, religious and satanic type objects, and a snake. Former customers told law enforcement that Carlos would tell them to bring their mattresses in the store. He would cut them open and say that he found demonic snakes inside. The former customers also informed detectives that Carlos told them he could cure them of diabetes, sleep disorders, nightmares, and headaches. The police said that Carlos was convicted in 2019 in Chicago for fraud, where he was allegedly a faith healer and stole money from customers. Now, Carlos was booked into the Riverside County Jail on charges of grand theft and theft by false pretenses. And according to jail records, he was released on bail the same day. My guess is it'll be a PR bond, no doubt. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you all can do whatever you choose to do with your money, and you could give it to whomever you desire. But if you're going to give it to fortune tellers, psychics, please understand, well, it's usually a scam. And I hate to say this. I mean, I know there's some people who swear by it, but okay, if there were psychics and they could see the future, why would we have any issues here in the world? We would just be able to predict what's going to take place and make sure that it was prevented. They can't. They play on people. It is a scam. I know some people don't like that, but that's just the way it is. Crime Talk's Dumb Criminal of the Day. A 20-year-old woman from Pennsylvania is facing criminal charges after allegedly hitting a woman in the back of the head with a cold chicken at Walmart. Tahoni Fickles threw the entire ready-to-cook chicken at 52-year-old Kimberly Pittman at a Walmart in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. It is unclear what prompted the alleged poultry attack or if Pittman was injured during the incident. It was also noted that Fickles and Pittman are not related, and it was not stated whether either woman works at Walmart. Now, Flicks was named in a criminal citation and charged with harassment with physical contact. Flicks last year was convicted for passing a forged check and placed on probation for 9 months in order to perform 50 hours of useful public service. She was also arrested last month on a child endangerment charge, for which she is scheduled to be arraigned on November 29th. All right. And that's all we have for you today. Thanks for watching Crime Talk. We'll see you next time.